My wife cheated with our married neighbor, then forged my signature to steal $200, $0 from our joint account, and now she's claiming half our house. Help, I'm losing everything over her lies. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am, and honestly, I don't know what to do anymore. The craziest part, my wife was cheating on me with our neighbor, Jake, who's also married, and she's been lying through her teeth about everything. It all started subtly, you know. Small things that didn't seem like a big deal at first. She'd stay out late, make up excuses about work or needing me time, but I could tell something was off. She'd be secretive with her phone, always hiding it when I walked into the room, and she started wearing new perfume, different clothes, acting a little more distant, a little more bitchy. One day, I decided to check her phone when she was in the shower. I know, bad move, but I was suspicious. I found messages from Jake, talking about how much she loved their secret meetups, how she couldn't wait to see him again. They'd been texting for months, I guess. And she'd been sneaking around right under my nose. I saw pictures of her and Jake at a restaurant, holding hands, smiling like they were in some secret world. My stomach sank. My heart started pounding like I'd just been punched in the chest. I couldn't believe it. The woman I loved, the woman I thought was my partner, was screwing our neighbor behind my back. That night, I confronted her. I remember walking into the bedroom, holding her phone, trembling with anger and hurt. I threw it on the bed and told her I knew everything. Her face twisted into this bitchy sneer, and she said, "Oh, so what? You're just jealous because I'm finally getting some real passion. Maybe you're too boring for me." She spun it around so easily, like she was the victim. She had the nerve to say I was overreacting, that I didn't understand her needs, that I was too controlling. But I saw through her lies. I saw her face when she thought I didn't know, the guilty look that she couldn't even hide anymore. The shock was overwhelming. I felt like I'd been hit by a train. How could she do this? How could she cheat on me, lie about everything, then turn around and blame me for not understanding? I was furious, but part of me just felt crushed. I had dedicated myself to this marriage, worked hard, tried to be a good husband, and she was out screwing around with someone who's basically a neighbor from hell. I mean, Jake is a typical sleazeball, drinks too much, hits on every woman, and now he's banging my wife. It felt like a bad joke, but it was my life falling apart. And it wasn't just the cheating. No, that was just the tip of the iceberg, because after I found out, I started digging into our finances. I wanted to see if she'd done anything else sneaky. Turns out she had. I found forged signatures on our joint bank account. She stolen $200, $0, drained our savings, and I had no idea. I couldn't believe she'd go that far. She's always been so bitchy about money, always saying we didn't need to save or invest. We should just spend, spend, spend. But this, stealing from me, that was next level. I confronted her again, and her reaction was cold. She claimed I was paranoid, that I was imagining things, that I had no proof. But I had everything: screenshots, bank statements, receipts. She kept lying, twisting her story, saying I was just jealous and insecure. And then she dropped the bomb. She wanted half the house, half the money, everything we'd built. She's claiming I'm the one at fault, that I'm a terrible husband, that I don't love her anymore. I feel like I'm losing everything because of her lies, and I don't even know how to stop it. I'm stuck in this nightmare, and I'm just trying to figure out what the hell to do next. After she threw that half of everything demand at me, I honestly felt like I'd been punched again. It was like she was trying to take everything I worked for, all because she thought she could get away with her lies. I couldn't believe how manipulative she was being, acting like a victim when she was the one cheating, stealing, and lying. This bitchy attitude had always been there, but it got worse during this whole mess. She started accusing me of being insecure, controlling, and even said I was the one who drove her to cheat because I never paid her enough attention. Yeah, right. Like I was some kind of terrible husband who forced her into Jake's arms. I remember sitting in the living room, staring at the pile of bank statements and her messages on my phone. My mind was racing. I felt betrayed, angry, and helpless all at once. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with Jake, her lips on his, her hand in his, the way she looked at him like he was the only person in the world. That's when I realized she'd been planning this for a while. She was so good at hiding it, so convincing when she lied. But I had the proof now, and it was tearing me apart. I started thinking about what I should do. Should I just leave, divorce her immediately and cut my losses, or fight for what's mine? I knew she was trying to spin everything in her favor, claiming I was a terrible husband who didn't appreciate her. She even told me I was lucky she didn't leave me sooner, which made my blood boil. I wanted to scream at her, tell her she was the worst kind of liar and cheat, but I held back. I knew I had to be strategic. I couldn't just react emotionally, I needed a plan. One thing was clear, she wasn't going down without a fight. She started showing up at the house every day, acting like she was still the loving wife, but her eyes told a different story. She'd throw tantrums over small things, accuse me of trying to control her life, and demand her rights to the house and the money. She kept saying she deserved half because she was the one who stayed loyal for so long. Yeah, right. She was the one sneaking around, stealing and lying. But she was good at playing the victim, and I could see she was trying to manipulate everyone, our friends, her family, even the neighbors. The worst part, I was starting to doubt myself. Did I miss signs? Was I just blind to her true nature? I always thought we had a good marriage, but now I saw how fragile everything was. I felt like I was losing control, that my entire life was slipping through my fingers. I kept asking myself, how did things get so messed up? How did I end up in this situation where the woman I loved was capable of such betrayal? And more than anything, I was furious with myself for not seeing the signs earlier. I should have known she wasn't happy. I should have noticed the way she was acting distant, how she avoided conversations about money, about us. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just let her take everything and walk away. I decided I needed to get legal advice, find out exactly what rights I had, and figure out how to protect what's mine. I couldn't trust her anymore. Her whole story was a web of lies. The more I dug, the more I realized she'd forged my signature on documents, trying to hide her theft. I had no idea she was capable of this level of deception. I felt sick every time I thought about how she'd been plotting behind my back, trying to drain our bank account, steal our house, and leave me with nothing. So I started gathering evidence. Screenshots, bank statements, recorded conversations, anything I could find. I knew I had to be prepared if I was going to fight this. I didn't want her to get away with it, not after everything. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about trust, respect, and my dignity. I felt betrayed on every level, and every day I wondered how I was going to pick up the pieces from this mess. I never thought my marriage would end like this, with lies, theft, and someone I thought I knew turning out to be a total stranger in disguise. The more I dug into her accounts and the evidence I'd collected, the clearer it became that I'd been planning her escape for a while. The forged signatures, the withdrawals, every piece pointed to her trying to cover her tracks. I found receipts for expensive jewelry she bought without telling me, payments to a private investigator she'd hired to keep tabs on me, and even a secret stash of cash she'd hidden in a safe in the closet. It was like she was preparing to run away, and I was left in the wreckage of what I thought was our life together. I couldn't sleep, and I couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with Jake. Those images haunted me, but I also felt an intense rage building inside. How could she do this? How could she betray me, cheat with our neighbor, then steal from us like that? It was like she was trying to erase everything we'd built, our house, our savings, our future. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all the signs? How did I not see that the woman I married was capable of this level of deception? I knew I had to confront her again, but I also knew I needed backup. I reached out to a lawyer specializing in family law and financial crimes. I told him everything about the affair, the forged signatures, the theft. His reaction was cold but clear. I had a solid case, but I had to be smart, was manipulative, and could turn the tables if I wasn't careful. He advised me to document everything, keep a record of her actions, and prepare for a legal battle. It wasn't just about getting my money back. It was about stopping her from taking my house and destroying my life. Meanwhile, was still acting like everything was fine. She'd come over to the house, acting sweet, pretending to be the loving wife she thought I wanted, but I saw right through her. Her bitchy attitude was still there, but now it was mixed with a false sense of innocence. She'd throw tantrums if I questioned her, accuse me of trying to control her and play the victim. She'd say, "You're just jealous because I still look good and I want what's fair," as if that was a valid reason for her betrayal and theft. I couldn't believe how she was spinning everything, trying to turn me into the bad guy. One day, she stormed into the house, screaming that she deserved half the house because she'd sacrificed so much being married to me. She said she'd been a good wife, that I was a terrible husband for not noticing her needs, and that she was entitled to everything. It was like watching a scene from a bad soap opera. I felt my blood boil. I told her she was a liar, that she'd betrayed me, stolen from me, and that I wasn't going to let her get away with it. That was the moment I realized I had to stand my ground, no matter how much she tried to manipulate me. I started making calls to my lawyer again, asking about the best way to protect myself and my assets. I also contacted a private investigator to see if was hiding anything else. I wasn't going to let her destroy me, not without a fight. I knew she was dangerous. She'd lied so much, I didn't even know what was real anymore. Her bitchy, manipulative side was on full display, but I refused to be the fool she thought I was. I was done playing nice. If she wanted to take everything, I was going to make sure she paid for it. At the same time, I was dealing with the emotional fallout. Every day felt like one moment I was furious, ready to fight her in court. The next I was just crushed, wondering how I'd let myself trust her for so long. I kept replaying the good times, the vows we made, and trying to understand how she could be so cold, so calculating. It was like discovering she'd been a stranger all along. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry, so angry that I could barely breathe sometimes. But I knew I had to stay strong. I had to fight for what was mine. I also started thinking about what I wanted my future to look like after all this. I didn't want to be a victim anymore. I wanted justice, and I wanted to rebuild my life without her. I realized that I wasn't just fighting for money or a house. I was fighting for my dignity, my sanity, and my future. No matter what happened, I'd never let her ruin me completely. I'd come out of this stronger, even if it meant losing everything temporarily. Because I knew one thing for sure, this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a long battle I was determined to win. The legal process moved faster than I expected once I handed everything over to my lawyer. She had no real defense. Her lies were thin, her manipulations obvious. Still, I knew. She's a bitchy, cunning woman who could spin a web of lies faster than I could catch her. I had to stay sharp. Every time I thought I'd seen her at her worst, she'd come back with another stunt, another lie, trying to turn the tables and make me look like the bad guy. But I had the evidence, screenshots, bank statements, forged signatures, and I was prepared to fight. One afternoon, she showed up at the house unexpectedly, demanding her rights, acting innocent like she didn't have a care in the world. She pressed her face close to mine, her bitchy attitude flaring up again. She said, "You're just jealous because I still look good and you're afraid of losing me." I looked right at her and told her she was a liar, that I knew about her affair, her theft, and her lies. I told her she'd crossed every line and that I was done playing her game. That's when she started yelling, calling me controlling, insecure, and saying I was the one who pushed her into Jake's arms. Her tantrums got worse. She even accused me of ruining her life, like I was some villain for catching her cheating. She kept insisting she was entitled to half the house because she'd sacrificed so much, and she kept claiming I was the one who was unfaithful, not her. I just shook my head and told her she was done. I'd caught her red-handed, and I wasn't going to let her manipulate her way out of this one. I knew I had to act fast before she tried to make a move that hurt me even more. That's when I decided to file for divorce. I couldn't stay married to someone who'd betrayed me so badly. I also filed for an injunction to prevent her from selling or transferring any assets. I wanted to protect what was mine, our house, our savings, everything. I was tired of her bitchy attitude, her lies, her manipulations. I knew she'd fight me tooth and nail, but I was ready. I'd already gathered enough evidence to prove her theft and her infidelity. I just needed to be patient and let the law work in my favor. Meanwhile, started turning up the heat. She hired her own lawyer, and they began pushing for her rights to the house and the money. She claimed I was an unfaithful, controlling husband who had driven her to cheat. She spun a story about how she was just seeking her fair share, even though I knew she was just trying to cover her tracks. She'd call me names, yell at me in front of the neighbors, trying to embarrass me. I could see her bitchy side come out whenever she was cornered, her manipulative, nasty attitude shining through. One night, she even tried to make a scene at the house, screaming that I was trying to ruin her life, and that she deserved everything because she was the one who stayed loyal. I looked her in the eyes and told her she was a liar, a thief, and a cheat. I told her she'd gone too far this time and she couldn't manipulate her way out of it. I was done playing her game. I wanted her out of my life, out of my house, and out of my bank account. I wasn't going to let her destroy everything I worked for. The emotional toll was enormous. Every day felt like a battle. I'd wake up with a knot in my stomach, knowing she was scheming, lying, trying to take everything from me. I'd see her bitchy face and feel a mix of rage and sadness. How could she do this? How could she betray me, steal from me, then act like the victim? I kept replaying everything, trying to find a way to fix this or at least come out of it with some dignity intact. But deep down, I knew I had to fight, not just for the money or the house, but for myself. I had to reclaim my life, my trust, and my sanity. In the end, I learned a hard lesson about trust and betrayal. The woman I thought I knew turned out to be someone I barely recognized. Her bitchy attitude, her lies, her manipulations, they all came to the surface in this nightmare. I realized that sometimes the people closest to you can hurt you the most. But I also learned that I was stronger than I thought. I was determined to fight this, to protect what's mine, and to rebuild from the wreckage she left behind. No matter how much she tried to tear me down, I knew I'd come out of this smarter, tougher, and more cautious than ever. The courtroom battles dragged on for what felt like forever. The lawyer kept trying to spin her lies, claiming she was the victim, that I was an unfaithful, controlling husband who drove her into Jake's arms. She insisted she deserved half the house because she'd sacrificed so much, even though I had all the proof of her theft and her affair. It was infuriating watching her lie with such bitchy confidence, acting like she was the innocent party when she'd been planning her betrayal for months. Every time she opened her mouth, I felt a mixture of rage and disbelief. How could she be so manipulative? I remember sitting in the courtroom, clutching my legal documents, feeling the weight of everything I'd lost. The house, our savings, the trust I once had in her, all hanging in the balance. My lawyer had told me I had a solid case, especially with the forged signatures and bank records. Still, side brought in their own witnesses, trying to paint her as a victim, claiming I was a terrible husband who was abusive and controlling. It was all bullshit, but I knew she'd do anything to win. That bitchy attitude of hers, her lying, her manipulations, they'd come back to bite her. One day during the hearing, had the audacity to stand up and say, "I've sacrificed everything for this marriage. I deserve to be compensated for my loyalty and my efforts." I wanted to scream at her, to tell the court she was the one who cheated, stole, and lied. But I kept my composure. I knew that showing anger wouldn't help. I had to be calm, collected, and let the evidence speak for itself. I looked her dead in the eyes and told the judge that she had betrayed me, that she'd forged my signature and drained our bank account, that I wanted full custody of the house and the money I'd earned. The judge listened carefully, and after several hours of testimony and evidence, he finally made his ruling. It was a win for me. She was ordered to return the stolen money, and the house was awarded to me outright. His face twisted with rage when she heard the verdict, but I didn't care. I felt a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. She had lost, and I had finally gotten some justice, but the emotional scars ran deep. I knew this wasn't the end. There was still so much fallout to deal with. After the court case, his bitchy side showed even more. She refused to accept the verdict gracefully. She started threatening me, saying she'd fight every step of the way, trying to appeal, trying to drag me through more legal hell. She also threatened to destroy my reputation, claiming I was a bad husband and a liar. I knew her well enough now to see that she thrived on control and chaos. She was the type who would burn everything down just to get her way. But I wasn't going to let her. I'd fought hard and I was done playing her games. The aftermath was a mess. I moved out of the house, leaving her behind. I felt a strange sense of relief, but also a lingering sadness. I'd lost the woman I loved, and I'd been betrayed in the worst possible way. I had to start over, rebuild my life from scratch, and learn how to trust again. My bank account was back in my control, and I had the house, but the emotional damage was still there. Every day I reminded myself of what I'd been through, how a woman I thought loved me turned out to be a liar and a thief. Looking back now, I realize how naive I was. I thought I knew her, that I could trust her with everything. But her bitchy, manipulative nature came out when she thought she could get away with it. I learned that sometimes the people closest to you can hurt you the most, and that revenge isn't about revenge at all. It's about standing up for yourself, protecting what's yours, and not letting the lies win. I've come to accept that some betrayals cut deep, but they also teach you who you really are. And I know I'm stronger than I ever gave myself credit for. The whole experience changed me, no doubt about it. I used to trust people easily, believed in the idea of a perfect marriage, but now I see things differently. I learned the hard way that some women, some people, are capable of the most vile betrayals. His bitchy attitude, her manipulations, her lies, they all came to light when I least expected it. I won't pretend I'm completely healed from this, but I've come out the other side with a clearer perspective. I know what to watch for now, and I know that standing up for myself was the only way to stop her from destroying everything I worked for. In the end, I realized that revenge isn't about getting back at someone just to hurt them. It's about reclaiming your life, your dignity, and your peace of mind. I had to fight hard, not just legally but emotionally, to get through the betrayal and deception she threw my way. I learned that the person you think you know can sometimes turn out to be someone else entirely, someone capable of lies, theft, and betrayal on a level I never imagined. Looking back, I wish I'd seen the signs sooner. I wish I'd trusted my instincts more and not ignored the small red flags, her secretive phone habits, her sudden attitude shifts, her spending sprees. But I also learned that sometimes you have to get burned to see the truth. And now I'm more cautious, more aware, and more determined to protect myself from people like her. She's out of my life now, and I'm finally starting to breathe again. The house is mine, the money is back in my control, and I'm focusing on rebuilding what I lost, trust in myself, not in her. I hope my story serves as a warning. Don't ignore the signs. Don't let someone's bitchy attitude and manipulation slide because you want to believe in forever. Because if I've learned anything, it's that some betrayals are so deep, they change everything. Forever. So here's my advice. Stay alert, trust your gut, and never let anyone steal your peace or your hard-earned money. Because in the end, no matter how much you love someone, their actions will always tell you who they truly are. And if they betray that trust, fight for yourself. Because no one else will do it for you.